Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Bucks Paranormal Podcast for those listening on YouTube and Spotify. Today we are joined with Cate from the Spirits of Marco. So, Cate, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having
Um,
me.
I know it's really early over that side of the pond, so thank you. Do appreciate it. So, can you tell us a bit about the Spirits of Marco, what it is, and how how did it become the Spirits of Marco? I guess.
Yeah, so it's a 155-year-old church. It was an operating church up until 2020 when it disbanded, primarily because of COVID. It's a very small community. As people kind of died, no new members joined. So they disbanded, and we are the third owners. A local person bought it, and only had it a couple of months. I don't know what their intentions were. They sold it to another couple that were going to make it a wedding chapel. And I think they got in there and realized there was a lot of work to be done on a 155-year-old church that had not had a lot of maintenance throughout the years. There
Yeah.
was a lot of termite damage and just a lot of updating that needed to be done. So they put it up for sale, and we were after COVID, we sold everything. We sold our house, we sold our cars, and we just traveled for a couple of years. So I started getting a little nervous because we didn't have a home, and so we started looking for a house, and I wanted something a little bit different. I didn't want just any home unless you have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Any home you move into, you're going to need to do some things to it. We found this church there's a website that sells where you can list churches, hospitals, schools, old buildings that are no longer functioning for as what they once did. And we found this church, and I said, let's do it. And we just took the leap and did it. And I didn't even see it before we bought it. My husband flew up and looked at it, and he said it was structurally sound, and we could do it with a lot of work, but we could do it. Our intention was to convert it into a home. And so we bought it. I'm
Did
sorry.
you know it was paranormal? Like
No,
activity? No. Okay.
no. I mean, I assumed with it being 155 years old and it being a church and a lot of funerals and weddings and baptisms and all the things that go with being a church, I assumed that, there might be some activity that I would live with, but I had no idea it was going to turn into this. So we bought it and we moved in, and we actually lived in the basement part of it for over a year. That was about my limit. I said, I can live through renovations and I can live through this mess and live in a basement for a while. But after a while, it got to be a lot. So we bought another house, and we'd already started having a few investigations at the time. But that kind of pushed us also into buying another house. And we still want to do the renovations. We still want to complete it and maybe make it an haunted Airbnb or something like that. Or maybe we'll move back in. I don't know. We're not sure what we'll do with it yet, but we just started having activity, and it kind of grew from there.
Is it getting like more? What's the word? Is activity like building up more and more as more teams go in, more investigators arise?
Yeah, definitely. Before, like I said, we had lived in the basement section of it, and it's not a very big church. It's maybe 3,500 square feet total, including the basement, the main floor, and then we built a loft into it. So total, it's about 3,500 square feet. So it's not really big. But while we were living in the basement part, we would hear walking overhead and whispers and shuffling, and it was very subtle and very timid, kind of shy. But as more teams are coming in and things are heating up a little bit more.
Crazy. So the name, the Spirits of Marco, for people over here in England, and where did that come from? Like, is Marco the town or something? Or
It is. Marco is the town, and the church was the Marco. Initially, it was the Marco United Methodist Episcopalian Church. They split in the 1930s. The Episcopalians left, and it became the United Marco Methodist Church. But the town is tiny, tiny, probably, I don't even think 100 people live there. It's very small. I mean, I've lived on streets that had more people than this town. But the whole town, and I I'm new at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just figuring it out as I go. But the whole town is eerie. There's a lot of dark history with the town. There's a lot of, can we say what we want on here? Are you
Say whatever you want.
okay? There's a very strong history of murdered and missing women in the area. A lot of women turn up missing, and some are found and some are not. There's a strong history with the KKK. I don't know if that's a thing over in the UK.
I'd imagine so, but as I'm guessing in America now, you don't really see it glorified, do you? But
yeah, there's a strong history with that hate group. The church members were members of the KKK, and they had meetings in the church. So there's a pretty dark history around the area. So it's not just the church, and that's what I tell people. Just walk around the town. There's a cemetery. Walk around the town. You can just walk around the streets and investigate, basically, and you will get activity.
no,
So that's where that name came from.
But when you mentioned about the KKK in the email that you sent me a bit ago, I was thinking about that. And I was thinking, with it being such a small town, in my head for some reason I thought, well, they must have been churchgoers and all sorts, like going there as well, which is what you brought. And although I lose track of what I'm saying and I overthink things, but what I'm getting at really, I guess, is even the older generation, which were part of the KKK that used to go there, even though you don't hear about it anymore, their children and their grandchildren would have been brought up in that lifestyle. So the grandparents were like glorifying it. These lot still will exist, just in silence, really. I guess around that way.
Yeah, if you Google sundown towns in Indiana, Marco doesn't come up because it's such a tiny town. It really isn't recognized. But Linton, which is the nearest town about 10 miles away, that'll come up. If you do a Google search for sundown towns, the area is still known today as a sundown area. There are some minorities that live there now, and I think it is more underground, but there are still a lot of people that still hold on to that belief today.
I've heard of that before. Something being called sundown town. Is that when things are supposed to get really hectic, like outside, and crazy things happen at sundown? Is that what's known as sundown town?
So in terms of the KKK, it was basically the church bell was actually used. They would ring a bell, or the minority population knew that at sundown you better stay in your house, or you're subject to whatever these people want to do to you. So that's the meaning of a sundown town in terms of the KKK activity. So there's rumors and lore, I guess, of school bells, church bells being used to ring these, to signify, time to go home, or we're coming.
Yeah. Now my brother lives in like Missouri, just outside of Kansas, like that kind of area. I've been over there twice now, and we're compared to over here, we could walk 5 minutes and we've seen 1,000 houses. Where over there, you've got to drive everywhere to get anywhere, haven't you, in America?
Yeah.
It's just lots of driving. And he's pointing out different areas. He's like, that's where the KKK still roam, and that's where they're supposed to go. And it's crazy, like how busy our streets are over here. Driving down some of them in America, it's like a ghost town. Like, there's supposed to be people living there, but you see nobody walking, no shops going, and I'm getting the picture of like that's what Marco is kind of like.
It is. It's an eerie little town, and I tell people when they come to investigate, if you see 5 cars out, so the church is kind of on a corner of a street that kind of curves, and there's the church, and then there's another house, and there's a house directly beside us, but there's not a lot of houses out there either. So if you see 5 cars out there in a week, that's a busy week. So when you see cars, it's kind of like, why are you here? Because you just don't see a lot of cars out there, other than the people that live, in the immediate area, and there's very few of them too. So,
man, one thing I did want to touch upon. You recently be on Beyond Logic with Tiffany. on their
Yeah.
podcast. So I was a guest on Tiffany's for my first ever podcast start of the year. And she's a guest of mine tomorrow, actually. So we're filming
Is
another
she?
one.
I'll have to watch.
So I was catching up on a little bits and bobs of what you were speaking about because it's on Spotify. And one thing that drew me straight away, you was talking about one of the neighbours, a bit of a crazy guy.
Yeah, so he is part of the legend around there. He was actually convicted of murdering his wife in 1990. He was convicted in 2000, but he actually murdered her in 1996. And he disposed of her body. He dumped her down an abandoned mine shaft. He worked in the coal mines. There's a lot of coal mines around here.
Yeah.
And for 4 years, he told everyone that she ran off with someone. And her family searched. They always knew that he was responsible, but it took him a long time to get enough evidence to, actually do something about it.
Yeah.
And he was convicted, and he took a plea agreement, and he only served 15 years in prison. He was released in 2016, and he is on supervised probation until 2031. He is incarcerated now, but I did learn that he's supposed to be out in April again. But he was also questioned in some of the women that had disappeared. A 79-year-old woman disappeared from the cemetery, which is a half mile away. And he was like
Can I just stop you there?
Okay. I can just go on.
Now, what she disappeared from a cemetery? Was she alive, or are we talking like a body?
Well, she went to visit her brother's grave.
So it wasn't like a grave robber.
Oh, no. She was alive.
Okay.
She was alive.
I want to confirm that.
And she was abducted from the cemetery, and she's never been found. And that was in so there was a 4-year period between 1994 and 1998, including the wife of this man that, he murdered her. There were 3 other women that disappeared in the immediate area that people believe maybe he was responsible for. And 2 of them were found. They were found deceased, and 2 have never been found. The lady, she was 79 years old. Her name was Ava Hale, and she's never been found. And then the wife of this man, she has not been recovered. He told the story that that's where he put her body, but some people don't really believe that. Some people believe he put her somewhere else. He just didn't want her to be found.
So he told them where he put the body, but they couldn't find nothing.
Well, he told them part of his plea agreement was he had to tell where she was, and he said that he put her down this mine shaft, which is like 200 feet underground. And at the time in 2000, it was going to cost like $6 million to recover her body, which they could not do, and he knew that. So I think he did not want her body to be found, because his side of the story, his claim is that it was an accident, that she had come toward him, and he just pushed her away and pushed her nose up into her brain and killed her, which is not very likely. But I think he did not want her body to be found, because I think they would find evidence that is not exactly how she died.
So I love stuff like this, like the true crime stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's a lot of true crime.
Started doing my own spin-off series, a bit like a true crime, Bucks Paranormal, Dark Reality, I've called it. First episode's on Spotify. You might be into that, actually. It's about Fred and Rose West from over here. If you've got a half hour spare sometime, check it out. It is a decent
I will. I'll definitely.
For myself.
I mean, paranormal and true crime, it goes together, right?
Exactly. It all comes from something, doesn't it?
Right.
So yeah, there was one more thing that I picked up on. I've only listened to half the chat you had with Tiffany. I'm not fully listened to it all yet. But what else did I want to mention? The thing about the police officer, where did someone say to you, is he trying to get back into the church for a reason? And that crossed my mind at the start. I thought, he's got something in there. He's hiding something.
Yeah. I believe so. So the church was never locked. It was for the community. It was never locked. People had full access to it from the time it was built. So whenever we hired him, we didn't know. We were new. I had never been to this town. We did not know a soul.
Just for the viewers, because I think I jumped the gun a lot there. People might not know what we're talking about. So this guy is a neighbour that we just started speaking about. Firstly, it is the same person, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So this neighbour that we've just been talking about, people that are listening, who murdered his wife. Or you said it was his wife, and we believe some other people.
Right.
When you moved into Marco, the church, he was currently next door or wherever it may be.
Yeah, he lives a couple houses down on the opposite side of the street. But yeah, he lives. Yeah, he currently lives there. Well, he's in jail, but that's where he will live when he gets out.
And just before we carry on with what we were talking about just now, the story started off. He started asking if he could help you move stuff into the place and all that. Yeah.
Correct. So we actually initiated contact with him. We didn't know, but he's like the little local handyman. He does little odd jobs for people. So he has like a skid steer piece of equipment, like a backhoe type thing. So the church had a lot of concrete sidewalk, patio type. So we hired him to chunk all that up so we could have more green space and plant grass seeds and stuff. So we didn't know. And he started telling us about being in prison and about being part of the KKK. And so I said, well, why were you in prison? And that's when he told me the story about his wife. And so I immediately thought, I'm keeping my distance from this guy. My husband will occasionally, whenever he sees my husband out, he always wants to talk to him and stuff. So my husband will engage with him just kind of enough to know what he's kind of up to. But yeah, so I forgot the original question. Oh, so yeah, whenever we would have materials delivered or anything, he would want to come help us. He always wants to come in. We've caught him lurking around outside, just kind of wandering around with no reason. But this team was there, and the lady used to be a corrections officer, and I was telling them about my dog's barking.
I was just going to say to you, if you can hear some weird noise, I've got a pug, and it makes some horrible, weird.
That's not you.
That's not me. I just thought I'd get that out there.
Yeah. Yeah, my dog hears me. He's barking in there. But yeah, so she said, well, do you think he has something here that he wants to come back in and get? I'm sure he never imagined someone would buy the church and he wouldn't have access to it.
Yeah.
So that made me remember when my husband, when we first started, we're kind of assessing all the work that needed to be done and so on. He had got up in the crawl space under the bell tower, and it's a dirt floor and concrete walls. And he found a woman's shoe, like an old-fashioned lady's shoe, like an older woman's shoe. And I just said, just put it back. Just let's not disturb it. Just put it back. And I'd forgotten about it until this woman who was a corrections officer had said, well, do you think he left something here that he wants to get? And then I remembered that shoe. So then, of course, we got the shoe out and we have it, in a case, and we'll investigate around it. So
that's the first thing I thought, because, if you're going to bury someone somewhere, who's going to suspect it's a church? Yeah, the police.
Right.
With the last place you go, isn't it? Where all the neighbours go. And...
Yeah. Can you hear? Can I go close that door real quick?
Yeah, carry on.
Can you hear the dog barking? He's barking like crazy. Max. Sorry about that. I put him in his crate, but he hears me, so he wants out.
No, that's fine. So jumping back again, you wanted to buy a place to live, somewhere you could do up and renovate yourselves to get it looking good. You moved in while that was happening. Things started to happen. You're hearing noises walking above you and stuff like that. How did that stem from you hearing that to being a paranormal venue, which is, I wanted to say an up and coming paranormal venue, but I'm seeing your name everywhere lately.
Oh, really?
So I'd say it's already an established place, yeah.
Yeah, so I've always been into paranormal. I'm not part of an official team or anything like that, but I grew up in southeastern Kentucky in Appalachia area. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's very deep-rooted, deep history. My grandma was Appalachian Native American, so I grew up hearing, ghost stories my whole life. So I've always been interested in it. So when we started having some activity, I had contacted a couple people that I know in the field that have teams and had them come check it out. Like, am I just imagining this, or do you really think there's something here? Or, and so as more teams came in, we had a couple teams come in, and I thought, well, you know what, let's just see what happens. So I just put it out there, like, we have this 155-year-old church. Would anyone be interested? And I mean, it just blew up. It just, of course, people were interested. So that's kind of how it grew from there.
Crazy hearing that, like 155-year-old church for you guys. That's quite modern for us over here.
Right,
It's quite a modern place. Well,
Yeah.
Is there anything that any of the investigators that have been there that have picked up that might have shocked you or shocked them, or something more than just like a flashy board going off or a Cate meter? Is there anything that's like made you go, wow, I can't explain that?
So yeah, I'll tell the first story. So my husband he's a truck driver, so he works odd hours. So sometimes he comes home at 4 p.m., sometimes it's 11 p.m., just how it goes. But he was on his way home one night, and he was, I was there by myself, and I was making him a mixed drink. And as soon as I poured the whiskey into the glass, because he was going to be home soon, I heard his voice. I am positive it was his voice say, "Hey." And even the dogs like ran across and ran to the door, and he wasn't there. So that happened twice. And it was both times as when I was pouring the whiskey. So I just thought, well, maybe it was just an odd thing. I mean, we've heard voices before. Normally it's female, whispering, muffled voices, but it was as plain as day. So I thought that was odd. Well, then actually 3 other teams, a team came in and they left their equipment running and they went to the cemetery. And when they came back, they were listening to the recordings and they heard a team member talking on the recording and there was no one there. So they were like, "I think you have a mimic." And I was like, okay, that was odd. I didn't expect that. And then 2 other teams has had that experience, either on recording or just hearing it, auditory, hearing another team member talking when saying things that they know they were not saying, like they were maybe in the basement and they could hear talking upstairs and they swear it was a team member and it was not. So that was a little shocking to me to think that I'm kind of still exploring that. I don't know a lot about mimics. But that would be surprising to me. That would be kind of a wow thing. But I am positive I heard my husband's voice say, "Hey." It was just the one word. And he was not there. He was still, 15, 20 minutes away. So that was pretty shocking.
Yeah, you'll have to try that again with a whiskey, because it could be like a residual energy. Something like perhaps someone was there years and years ago, used to pour a whiskey at a certain time, and it is mimicking the voice that it last heard, maybe.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah. So
you said you go on some paranormal investigations yourself. Would you class yourself, Cate, as a paranormal investigator / venue owner, or a paranormal enthusiast / venue owner?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes I want to know the answers, and so it would be more of a research type thing, and I want to figure it all out. But then I get probably frustrated because I don't know that we'll ever know all the answers. So then I'm just more of an enthusiast, just like in it for the fun to see what I can find out. Yeah. I would probably say more of an enthusiast, just because I don't know that maybe one day I'll have time to dig deep into it and try to make sense of it all and figure it out. But right now I'm just kind of enjoying it.
That's it. I think that's the thing, isn't it? We're never going to know. We're never going to know 100% for anything, are we? Otherwise, no one would be investigating at all.
Yeah.
I was going to ask something else, gone out of my head now. I think what I was going to ask. So what was it always a church as far as you're aware then?
Yes, it was always a church. Now, something interesting about the church and the area. So I'm pagan, and sometimes I'm not a very good pagan, but that's what my claim. But in the area, when the church was first being built, there were pagans, atheists, and Christians in the area. And I was surprised that all three would be recognized back in the mid to late 1800s. But the community went together physically and financially and built the church, and it was used by all people. So there were pagan and even atheist meetings in the church. But as far as I know, it's always operated as a church of some sort. And then, of course, there was a meeting place for the KKK too, but that was still related to the church members. So, yeah, as far as I know, it's always been a church.
It's just full of all sorts of energy.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say, because a lot of people say haunted places and things that have got paranormal activity kick off when renovations start? Did it start when you started renovating?
It definitely amped up with the renovations. We heard things almost immediately. We heard the walking and the shuffling sounds. We have the old original piano from the late 1800s, but then they also had a newer modern piano that after the old one could no longer be tuned and played. But I heard walking one night, and I went up and I said, "Hello, I can hear you." And it wasn't the old piano, it was the newer piano. I heard just the three little like ting, ting, ting keys play. And I said, "I can hear you. Do you want to talk to me?" And silent, dead silent for like 2 weeks. We didn't hear anything. And I thought, oh no, I've scared them off. So they slowly, they came back. We heard the walking, things continued. But yeah, when we, and it was very subtle. Like I said, it's still pretty subtle, but it was just like the walking sounds mostly. After we started the renovations, we would hear the heavier walking. When I say talking, it's a weird sound. Like you hear muffled sounds. It's more than a whisper, but you hear words, but you don't know what it is. You can
like
just
background noise, like from another room. Like there,
yeah. So with the renovations, we've definitely heard a lot more of that. So I always make sure I talk to them and tell them what we're doing, why we're doing it. I explain to them, you can stay here. No one's going to make you leave. You're safe here. You can stay as long as you want. We can all coexist here, but we're doing these renovations. We're not trying to destroy what but we have to do these things to restore the building. So they seem to be okay with that. There was a lot of not banging, but more, I wouldn't say aggressive, but more, you could just maybe agitation because they didn't understand what we were doing. But as long as we talk to them and let them know what we're doing, they seem to be okay with it now.
No, of course. My mind keeps going back to that guy, and I'll keep thinking about why is he trying to get into the church. It's just playing over and over in my head. Are you not intrigued to have a little dig?
I am. So there's I am, but I'm kind of afraid too. Like I don't know what I would do. I really don't. If there was actually something there, first of all, I would feel so awful that would be
why. It might be why there's activity, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Something. It could be why there's actually activity there. If something's called out, like like, look for me, sort of thing. You've moved in. Finally, someone's here. Someone believes there's people searching. I'm here. I'm letting myself known.
It could be. So that's interesting because there's this. We're not really sure what it is. It's like this big, almost like a well, like a hole. There's a cover on it, but we don't know where it goes. We don't know what it feeds into or what feeds
inside the building.
No, right directly behind the building.
Okay.
So in the back and downstairs in the very back of the church is where the kitchen area is. They had like receptions and fish fries. So they did cook food there and serve it there at the church. So there is a full kitchen and things there. But in the outside, directly behind the kitchen area, there's this hole. My husband keeps saying it looks like some type of what used to be maybe a well or a cistern type thing that used to be used. We haven't really explored it a whole lot. But if you look, and that's in the very back of the church, directly in front of the church, about 100 yards, there's a vacant lot. And that's where the man lived with his wife when he killed her. They had a mobile home there. And that's since been torn down or towed away or something. But there's a wishing well there that's like a decorative type wishing well. It's not operational. It's just a decorative thing, like a yard ornament.
Yeah.
And when she was missing, her family tried everything to find her. They went to several psychics and, anybody that would give them any kind of clue. And 2 different psychics told them to look in the well. So I've always believed he killed her on that property. I don't think she's down or near that decorative wishing well, but I think they're picking up maybe that's where she died. But my husband seems to believe, or he's a little nervous to know, is this thing behind the church, is that a well? And were they directing something to that well area? Because when you lift the cap off, there's another layer to it that's kind of sealed off. So I don't know. We may get brave enough to dig around there one day. I don't know.
It's one of those, isn't it? I think I'd be the same. I'd be really intrigued, but then I'd be like, well, what if I really upset something by doing this?
Yeah. And then I feel like if there's something there, they do deserve a proper burial and a proper resting place. But then you think, do I want to disturb anything? And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe one day we'll be brave enough to explore that a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know that there's a body there or something like that. I think I keep going back to the shoe. So I feel like maybe it was like a souvenir or something. Maybe he had things there, but it could be, maybe there's something more there. Maybe, like you said, who would ever think to look in a church? He had no reason to think that the church was ever going to become anything but a church.
I mean, obviously it'd be quite scary for you guys, but if I was you and your husband was definitely there, like, with me, I think I'd want to play devil's advocate and let that guy actually come in and just see what he looks at, where he wants to go. Do you know what I mean? He might be wanting to check something. Have you dug this up? Have you moved this? And if he can't see it,
Oh yeah.
but then I'm guessing he could all. I don't know if it's fenced off or whatever, but I'm guessing he can check around the back anyway if he wanted to.
He could, and we've actually caught him lurking around the property.
So there's a reason he wants to come into the building rather than outside. Then
Yeah. I don't know if he's just curious about what we're doing and he's just nosy, or if it's something more, if there's like he's actually looking for something. But yeah, he could easily, walk around the property, and we actually have caught him so many times that we've said, don't do this. If you if you continue to lurk around here, we will pursue other actions. And he's pretty much stayed away. Of course, then he got put in jail again. So who knows what he'll do when he gets out.
Matter, he keeps coming back to the same place, isn't it? Like, surely you get locked up, you'd want to leave, you'd want to go away. Yeah, you wouldn't want to come back. If he got, like, it's crazy how he keeps coming back to the same place. You'd think if you got locked up and sent to prison, you'd want to leave. You wouldn't want to come back to where all this happened, would you?
It's odd. I don't know if you caught this part with Tiffany, but it's odd. The people that live there, like, they just say, oh, he's fine. He's not, he's just an odd guy. Like, they normalize his behavior. So it's like he grew up in the area. He's very familiar. Everyone knows him there. And they just kind of take it as he's just an odd person. They don't see him. Oh, hey, baby.
Told you it wasn't, mate.
Oh.
Weird noses.
Yeah, they're little short noses. So I don't think it's strange that he came back to the area, because people just accept him there and accept that he did these things, and they just live with. It's a really strange place. It's a very strange place, and as a whole, the whole county is strange as far as these women disappearing. I'm assuming that people have tried to find them, or I just don't know how deep the investigations have gone, or if people just accept, oh wow, they're missing. That's the way it kind of seems. So,
sounds like a Stephen King type of thing, where like everyone's got their own story. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
He's a killer over there. He's so and so over there.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. So there's a couple odd people. Now we do have 2 police officers that live very close by. One of them used to be the sheriff of the county. He's retired now, and then his son. He's a school resource officer now, but he used to be a local police officer. So I know they do kind of keep an eye on him. And there were some other weird people that lived up near the road, a couple streets away, and I'm pretty sure they were dealing with some drugs and things. And I know they were watching them, and I'm pretty sure they're the reason those people are gone. They do kind of keep an eye on things, and maybe they're just not as out, they don't make their what they're doing known. But I do believe they do kind of keep an eye on things. But it's odd the way people just are so accepting of this man and his behavior, and people let him into their homes. Oh, and we did. Of course, we didn't know. We didn't let him inside. We had him outside. But there's an older lady that lives directly next door, and her house it needs a lot of repairs. And her husband passed away a few years ago, and she lets him come and work on her house. And I'm like, I don't know that I would do that, because she could just disappear one day. And he's older himself. He's in his 60s now, early 60s. But he's still pretty active, and he's still, he's still young enough to still do some bad things.
I'm a firm believer that like a leopard doesn't change his spots. If he's done it once, he'll do it again. Doesn't matter how old he is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to live next door to him, to be honest.
No. So it's funny. He was telling my husband one day, he asked my husband if we have a gun he could borrow, because he didn't want to, but he said he had to shoot his dog because his dog had mold poisoning. He said his basement had 4 feet of water in it, and there was all this mold in his house. And my husband let him know that we do have guns. We let him know that we are protected.
Yeah.
But he could not borrow one, especially to shoot his dog. But he's a convicted felon. He's not allowed to have guns. We told him to take his dog to a vet. But my husband said his whole property looks like a junkyard. Like, he does these odd handyman jobs, and he brings junk back. So if he helps with a kitchen remodel or something, he'll bring back a refrigerator and microwave and dishwasher or whatever it may be. And he just has it sitting there. He has like 10 cars, and it looks like a junkyard. And my husband said, why don't you take all this junk you have sitting, put it in your basement, concrete over it, and that'll stop the water from coming in, and that'll take care of your mold problem. And he said, no, I'm going to make a dungeon and put a woman down there. He said that. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if he thought he was being funny, but someone with his history shouldn't say that. But I really think that, I was afraid when he went back to jail this last time, I was afraid there may be a woman down there dying because he had her down there and no one knew she was there. It's
one of those. Even if you're making a joke, that's very precise. That's in his head already. He's already thought about what's happening there.
Right.
And that's the scary part. Not the fact that he wants to do it. He's thinking about it.
Right.
That's the scariest
he's
bit.
Probably planned this. He lives there alone. He has a daughter, but she doesn't have any contact with him because of his. So the wife that he killed, that was his second wife. I don't know what happened to his first wife. They divorced and she moved away. She got away from him.
Yeah, lucky escape.
Yeah. So he does have brothers and sisters, but I don't know. I never see anyone over there. I pretty much think he's on his own. Maybe he has contact with his family, but you never really see anyone there. So, he couldn't do anything because he's over there by himself. Everybody keeps to themselves in this town. One night we were sitting outside. We had a little fire pit in the backyard, and it was about midnight, and we were just sitting out there with our little fire, and we heard this big explosion, this boom. It shook the ground. So we walk out to the front, and we see this huge fire down by his property. This fire was probably 30 feet in diameter and as tall. It was probably even taller. It was giant. I thought something was really wrong. So we walked down there, and I was like, something is wrong. So we go down and he's on his little backhoe thing and he's leveling off the neighbor's property, like cutting down trees at midnight. And this huge fire is burning. So we stood there in the middle of the street and he drove past us like 3 times and he never stopped, didn't say, mind your own business, nothing. He just stood there. So, or we stood there, he just drove by. So a few weeks later, my husband said he saw him out and he came to talk to my husband. And he said, what was that fire that you had burning down here the other night? It was huge. What was going on? And he said, oh, I had to burn a car. So he goes, I burn stuff at night so people don't see the smoke and call the fire department. So people know he does these things, but people just mind their own business. Like, people just don't question him. They just think he's odd and they just let him do what he does. So he really could be doing anything and people probably wouldn't even question it.
Why would you burn a car? Unless you want to get rid of something.
Yeah. Right. That's what I want to know. Who was in the car?
Mm-hmm. You say he's got all these cars on his yard. I bet each one's got its own story.
I bet it does.
Everyone.
Yeah. So one night we were kind of related to that story. There's a team that comes pretty often and we investigate together. And we were walking. We'll investigate around his property. We stay on the street, but we'll kind of investigate around his property, especially down in that empty vacant lot where his trailer used to be.
Yeah.
Because there's no one there. And we do stay on the street there too. But we were down near his junkyard. And I was telling him the story of him burning this car. And as soon as I pointed to where he was burning this car, the obelisk said, we are buried there. And we were like, what? So we were, kind of took us by surprise. And as soon as we were kind of talking about hearing that, we heard a man's voice and we all four heard it. It either said, get back or get out, as plain as day. But so I thought, oh my God, he's not in jail. So we like ran back to the church. Now I don't run, but we did that night because I thought he's out and I didn't know what was going to happen. So we waited. We waited for him to come out, waited to see someone. We sat outside. So after about a half an hour, we drove back. We got in the car and drove down there and we sat exactly where we were. No one ever came out. No one told us.
So you didn't hear it over the equipment. It was like person in person. You heard it.
It was a man's voice, as clear. It wasn't. It was a get back or get out, but it was a man's voice. So we got in the car. We went back. No one ever came out. Well, the next couple of days, I was talking to a neighbor, and they did confirm that he is still in jail. So I don't know what that voice was. I don't know if something was warning us, if something was telling us to mind our own business. It wasn't him. And it was 2:00 in the morning. There was no one out. But there was something. You get a lot of weird activity down by his property.
Could it be that someone else was in his property?
Could have been. Because he has like this huge big barn structure, like an open-ended barn that he has a bunch of junk in. Someone could have been over there trying to do whatever they do. There are people. There's a lot of drugs in the area. It's not a wealthy community. So there's a lot of cheap, dirty drugs in the area. So it could have been something like that. It could have been just a real person that said that. It was just an odd thing. We get a lot of weird stuff down there.
Even so, that's like creepy as hell if you're doing investigation.
Yeah.
I used to be part of a team, and we used to do like investigations. We used to go live on Facebook for quite a few years. And over here, unless you pay for like higher venues, hotels, and stuff like that, there's just abandoned places where you go to. And a lot of teams over this side, and it's just a civil matter, trespassing. So you can't get arrested or sent to prison for it like you can in America. So everyone's going to properties abandoned. If they're open, they just walk in.
Oh, wow.
And the amount of times like we did investigations and we heard stuff like that, and it was just a crackhead in the corner.
Oh, which is scary.
Yeah, I always say on most of these podcasts now, I'm saying you got more to worry about the living than you have the dead.
Oh, definitely. So, yeah,
it is scary, especially when you don't know what you're walking into.
Right.
Another thing I
Yeah.
wanted to point up on, you did say, I believe, did I hear it on the email or did I hear it on the podcast? I can't remember now. But you said that you're potentially doing the house up, the church, and potentially going to move back into it. Are you not concerned that with all these investigations you're doing and all these teams you're letting in doing, I don't know if you do Ouija boards or all sorts of things, are you not worried that that's going to make your life a living hell when you get back there?
I've never been scared there. I've never felt like there was anything dark or negative or anything that would be harmful. I could be wrong. I mean, things could happen, but I've never been scared. I've been there by myself many, many times, and also with my husband. But I've never felt scared. I've never felt like they're not. It's a very subtle, and I tell people that like you're not going to get scratched. You're not going to get pushed. You're not going to get. Some people say they've been touched. No one's gonna. It's not an aggressive type energy. Not yet. So until something like that happens, I guess I'll still weigh my options on moving back in. Um, it's never been scary. It's always been friendly or maybe confused. What are you doing? But I've never been scared or worried about being there.
No. So I know obviously the church, I know it's well protected, CCTV and stuff like that. But have you got cameras like in rooms so that when you're not there, you
Yeah,
can
we
get
have.
things and you've got that?
Yeah, we have cameras all around, inside and outside. And we have picked up some things. I have it on TikTok and Facebook, some things that the cameras have picked up when no one's been there. We picked up these really weird, loud banging noises. It sounds like the first time I heard it, we've got, wood and things like that sitting there and boards and stuff. And it sounded like, now there's a pretty big echo there because it's a big open space. But it sounded like a board falling or something crashing down. So I thought, oh, something fell over. So I went over and I looked and nothing seemed to be out of place. We have captured that a few times and we don't know what the noise is. Orbs, I'm kind of on the fence on orbs, but we have caught some strange movements that seems more than uniform or seems to be more directional or with purpose. And then I started leaving some simple equipment out, just like the UFO light, motion sensor type things. And that's been triggered a couple of times and there's no one there. So I am starting to get better at this, I guess, and try to capture some things on my own. But yeah, we have caught some things like that. Just last night, a team was there and I turned the notifications off on the cameras to give them their privacy, while they're there, but they still record. But they messaged me and they were like, hey, can you check your cameras? Because something just knocked this person's water bottle over it was on the table. And I was like, that's pretty extreme. I don't know. So I did look and I looked at the camera and you can see they're sitting there and all of a sudden it just flies off the table. So I don't know. So we have caught a couple things like that when a team has asked me to go back and look at the cameras and see if we see anything. We've caught a couple things like that. But yeah, hopefully I can catch some more things and put out there now that I'm catching on to it.
Well, hopefully next time I come over to America, I can pop down, have a look.
Oh, that would be great. I would love that.
So far in America, I've done Villisca House, the McIntyre Villa, and the Asher Walton House.
Oh, okay.
A nice big building house.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool places over really close here. There's us, and then there's Indiana State Sanatorium. That's only about an hour away. There's Pine Lawn Manor just across the river in Illinois. It's an old nursing home and a rehab center. It's pretty creepy. There's the Ashmore Estates. It used to be a poor farm. So I don't know if they had those in the UK, but the county used to just build these big houses and people that had no other way to live, that basically a poor farm. They lived there and they worked the land and women worked in the kitchen and the house. And there was a lot of abuse and things that happened there. So that's Ashmore. There's a lot of really cool stories with that. Yeah, there's a lot of places. You could hit like a bunch of them just in this area.
It's mad. I think it literally is how you see things on the film, like on the film. So you guys picture England castles and Buckingham Palace and stuff like that. That's basically what it is. We picture America haunted, scary old houses, and that is generally what it is.
There are a lot. I mean, like obviously our buildings and our we're not as old as you guys. Like we don't have that history, but I think there's still a lot here. There's a lot.
Most of the paranormal activity I've captured, especially EVPs and stuff on video, as being in abandoned places, which we used to go into, and we didn't know if it was haunted or not. You never know unless you start an investigation.
Right.
Most of the things that, like I say, most of the credible evidence, even let's say, was caught through those more so than the main venues that we've got around us.
Yeah.
So
I do believe some places can be over investigated. I think some places that, just constant. I know even at the church, I try to spread them out. Obviously, if somebody wants to book, I let them book. But I have noticed if there's a lot of activity several days in a row, they get tired. I mean, I really do believe that. And so, then the next investigation, it may not be as active because they're just kind of over it. People are, make this light up or touch us or move something. They get tired of it too. They don't want to be in a performance all the time. So I do believe they get kind of tired.
Look, so you should go to a venue and you should expect nothing to happen. If something happens, that's a good thing. People think, you speak to people, I've been there 3 times, nothing's happened, it's terrible. You speak to someone else, I've been there 3 times and loads of things have happened.
Yeah.
They're not performing monkeys, like I always say.
Yeah.
If they want to come out, they will.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens, like I said, when I went up, when I heard that the walking and I heard the piano, I really do think I either scared them or they just didn't want to deal with me. And there was nothing for about 2 weeks. And I constantly was like, you can come out, no one's going to hurt you. And they did slowly kind of come back out. And, but they, sometimes I'm there and I get absolutely nothing, just silence. And it's just me there. So I'm sure, they don't want to deal with someone they don't know.
When it's silent like that, do you still get the feeling like, do you feel someone's there, like you're being watched, or that sense?
Yeah, I can always feel the energy. I like equipment because it gives you a visual proof, sort of. But I just trust my own feeling. If I feel something, I don't think I have any kind of special gifts or anything like that. But I do think growing up in Appalachia, growing up with a Native American Appalachian grandma, and just that spiritual intuition, maybe. So I do trust that a lot more than equipment or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with equipment because you do want to see things. But yeah, I feel even when they're being quiet, I know they're there. They're not just going to go away. I mean, they.
2 main pieces of equipment that you need is your ears and your eyes, isn't there? You're never going to run out of batteries. So.
That's true. Yeah, they drain the batteries pretty quick sometimes, don't they?
But I mean, surely before we wrap up, can you tell us, people in the UK and people in America even, if they want to come and do an investigation at the Spirits of Marco, where is it and how do they book? How do they go about getting more information?
So we are on Facebook and TikTok. It's Spirits of Marco on both. And if you want to book, it's spiritsofmarco@gmail.com. We don't have a website yet. We're still pretty new. We just started doing this in July. So it's just spiritsofmarco@gmail.com. Just send us an email. We'll send you all the information. It's $150 for up to 8 people from 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. the following morning.
That's really good. People charge thousands for like a couple of hours.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to get rich off of this or anything. It's just, it is just a really cool place. And I really want to share it with people and just have people experience that. People that are really into it, you have like your thrill seekers and your content creators that just want to get some type of reaction and get the clicks and the likes and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine if that's what you're doing. But I really just want to let people come in and see this. It's just a really cool place.
Let people enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of paranormal investigators can't actually do venues anymore. All the venues that's on their bucket list they want to do, they can't because they're thousands and thousands of pounds over here. So I'm guessing it's the same there.
Yeah, some of the bigger places. Now I do think, some of these bigger places, they have like a full staff and they have tour guides, and it is expensive to operate a building and things like that. So, I mean, ours is pretty small, and we just have, it's just me. I don't have a staff or anything. But I do think sometimes people lose sight of what it's about. And I'm not faulting anybody for making money. If that's what you do and you can make a living off of that, then go ahead.
But I'm moaning about it as an investigator, but if I own the venue, it'd be a different story.
Yeah, I mean, but I do think some of these places are ridiculously priced. Some of these places are $1,500 and there's no heat, running water, bathrooms, or anything. And you think, are you kidding me? Like $1,500 and I can't even go to the bathroom. I have to go drive down the road to a gas station to go to the bathroom. So, and maybe the activity, I don't think the activity, maybe it is, but I don't think the activity is that much different in one of the cheaper places, because if you're going to have activity, you're going to have it. And I don't know that paying more is, now you do have some places that are huge, like Waverly Hills. That's a great place. And it's huge. Yeah. But it's very expensive, and it's, I think they open up their booking at midnight on January 1st, and they book like pretty fast. If you're not right there booking a date, it's pretty hard to get into. But it's really expensive, and unless you have a lot of people going in with you, I wish it were more affordable for everyone. It is a big place. There's a lot of room to spread out and things like that. But I don't know that the activity is that much different.
It's a ghost hunters virus, isn't it? It's like since Ghost Adventures went there, I think everywhere they've been to, prices have shot up.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Waverly Hills, I'd like to go to Bobby Mackey's and music place, isn't it? Mackey's, I think it's called that.
Oh, Bobby Mackey's?
Yeah, I watch Ghost Adventures. So
oh my God. Okay. So I was going to bring it up, but I didn't, because I didn't know if you were familiar with it. So they tore the building down. So I used to live up near Bobby Mackey's. I went there when I was in high school because they would just let anybody in. But I've investigated there many, many times. And but they tore the building down. They're going to rebuild, but they tore the building down. So
it's not there no more at all.
No, it was falling down. It was in such disrepair. I mean, it was the whole ceiling part. So years and years ago, they would let you climb up the ladder and walk across the catwalk above the stage and everything, and you could go up in the upstairs part where Carl's apartment was, the caretaker, Carl Lawson. You could do all that, but it was in such disrepair. The ceiling was falling down in his apartment. It was not even safe. So they were really limited on areas that you could investigate in more recent years because it was in such disrepair. They are going to rebuild on the same land, but they did tear the building down. So I went there. I was in town. My kids still live in the area. And I was in town, and I drove by. And so I stopped, and I got some things from there. I've got some bricks. I've got some dirt from the well. I've got some wood from the floor. And I took it back to the church. And I think when we talked about the whiskey, I think that's what triggered. I think I brought something with me from Bobby Mackey's, because it was always a very subtle, quiet kind of energy. But then the footsteps got heavier, and that's when and in the whiskey, that's when we heard the hey, and it was a male voice. So I am convinced that I brought something with me from Bobby Mackey's.
Well, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I'm a strong believer that the spirits, it's not the venues, it's the land that, like, the energies, spirits, or ghosts, or whatever you want to call them. So knocking it down and replacing it should still be the same.
I think so. I think if they rebuild on the same land, I think they'll still have a lot of the activity. That whole area. So Newport, which is the city, Bobby Mackey's is right outside of the city of Newport. Back in the day, back during Prohibition and all that, Newport was a very mob connected. There was a lot of gangster, like underground criminal activity, the underground alcohol bars and things like that, speakeasies, and it was controlled by the mob. And so they actually at one point purchased Bobby Mackey's and turned it into it was the Latin Quarters back then, and it was mob operated, and a lot of bad things happened then. There's tales, there's like bullet holes in the walls where they would come in and just shoot at people and things like that. I mean, that's not there now, but there's a lot of things that happened on that land and on that property that, I still think is still around. We actually investigated there on the property when we were there getting some items that were left there. There was a cop sitting right there. He didn't say anything. So I thought, well, he's not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. There was no trespassing signs or anything. So, but yeah, we investigated. We got a lot of activity just on the land where the building used to be.
Shame it's been knocked down though.
It is.
I only ever watched it on TV, obviously, but seemed like a good building.
Yeah. So I've heard that they actually dug up the well area, and there is a big hole there now, but they actually took the boards and stuff that were around the well, and they're going to put it into, I've heard that they're going to put it into the new building as like a, just as a
memorial.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with when they rebuild. I haven't been by there in a while. I need to go home and see if
are they rebuilding it as like Bobby Mackey's. So
yeah. He's actually operating a bar, a Bobby Mackey's, in another city, just a few miles away. So he's still running the bar and the business as it was, and then they're going to rebuild and then move back to that location. That's what I've heard, anyways.
I'd imagine they'll probably try and make some money out of the paranormal theme from it, one way or another.
Yeah.
No, thank you for joining us, Cate. It's been a really interesting chat. Is there anything you want to say or anything before we wrap up here?
I can't think of anything. If I start saying something else, I'll be here another hour because I just get going. But yeah, we'd love to have you. Come on over. It's a long trip, but yeah.
Definitely be interesting. Maybe we'll speak in another 6 months or so when your neighbour's been released from prison and we can see what he's up to.
See what's up. See if any more women disappear. Yeah. I have to get with Tiffany, and we'll have to come over and visit your area.
Yeah. I'll say we've got places everywhere. There's a castle 5 minutes over there, haunted hotel there, and a walking distance to everywhere around there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, no, thank you very much, and we'll speak again.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Cate.
Bye-bye.